We're going to talk to Mark Errichiello. He's a real estate agent, co-founder and director of Masters Advocate. And we spoke to his wonderful wife. What a story she had about 5 weeks ago, I think. The lady who was putting the rubbish bin out and a car drove into her and she lost her leg. And my goodness, that story touched me. And Mark, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Tony. Thanks for having me here. And having my wife Michelle as a guest too. It was great to be listening.
You know, I couldn't believe as that story, because I didn't know the whole story. All I knew was a little bit. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I've had a bit of a cold. I haven't got COVID.
That's
I've
all
tested
right.
negative.
Lots of people have had COVID.
It's really bad at the moment. As the story unfolded and it went on and on and on, and then the the person who went to fix the situation up died on that day.
Yeah, it was tragic.
God, that is a big story and a half. And it's wonderful that she's moved on with life. You've had children, and life's good.
Yeah, it is. Life's beautiful. Yeah, Bella Vita. It's had two beautiful little girls. 6 and 9 now, Ava and Willow, and got a female German Shepherd as well, Strudel. So family's good. Family's healthy.
I just want to touch on it a little bit. What did you think because you were working there at the office, when you went outside and you saw, the woman who was going to be your wife on the ground or on the car, and the leg had been cut off? Do you remember that moment?
Look, vividly, it was like those dreams, those nightmares where you're trying to run faster and you can't move. That's the feeling, the adrenaline pumping and body. That's the memory I've got of it. I was actually around the corner about to perform my first auction. I had just stepped out of the rental department into sales. And so I had my family with me, my dad, my brother. We were all running a family business there at the time, and other colleagues. Michelle was when the accident happened, and there was bystanders that came to her first aid and saved her life. But she was rattling off our mobile numbers to them, and one of our colleagues had his number on still. And just as I was about to step out onto the street with the inspection before an auction starts, that sort of height, he said, Michelle's been in an accident. And I just, it was luckily just, I don't know if you know Ascot Vale, we were around Epsom Road near the showgrounds, and the office was on Union Road, Ascot Vale. So I just went through every red light pretty much and parked the car in the street and ran there. But there was already fire brigade people around holding me back because Michelle wasn't aware her leg was gone yet, but I could see it, and pretty much just feeling of nausea almost, and surrealism. That was the initial shock.
Would have been so traumatic. Do you think you suffered from post-traumatic stress as a result?
Probably a little bit. Yeah, I had.
Do you have flashbacks about it?
Sometimes the heart rate and when you think about it, more when I think of, your mind can race with fear of something else happening to someone, like the kids, the wife, the family, when people are out. If you let your thoughts spiral, that can happen. You get the anxiety or adrenaline, and got to calm yourself down. But I had good help with like some psychologists and counselling, because I went back to the worksite within about a month, and we were running a family business there, so I had to walk past the scene every day, and that was probably the hardest thing. Once I got over that, or learned to manage that, you don't get over it, you sort of carry it with you, but you learn to manage that. I think that's, and Michelle was so, strong in rehabilitation and driving forward and positive, and we had our wedding that year, so that helps. You almost help each other.
Yeah. Well, for people who didn't listen to that episode, it is on podcast. Go back and have a listen to it. It's the first interview of about 5 weeks ago. But just quickly, Michelle was working at the real estate agent with Mark here. She went outside to put the rubbish bin on a hot day. Car reversed into her, cut her leg. I think her right leg, if I remember. Leg. Off. She was bleeding. Fire brigade guy put his hand on the vein, stopped the bleeding, otherwise she would have died. She gets taken to hospital. A guy goes back that night, a tradesman, to put up sort of whatever it is to cover up all the damage that had been done. He fires a nail gun, it ricochets into his heart, and he dies.
He died. Yeah.
So Michelle then goes on to marry Mark, walk down the aisle with her prosthetic leg, dance on her wedding night. Not only that, but she goes to compete for Australia in the Olympic Games in London in 2012.
2012, yeah, Paralympics. It was beautiful, beautiful experience.
What a wonderful story. Sad. He's got everything. But Mark, well, you're here now, and you're selling houses, and that's what we're going to talk to you about. We've had interest rates go up, which means houses will have to go down, at least initially. Has that started you?
Oh, look, there's been some correction. So we're on the advocacy side. So we've got a lot of sales colleagues in the industry, but we help people search and buy and negotiate. So it's almost become a bit more of a fair and balanced market over the last month with these adjustments. And there's definitely been some softening, 5-10%, depending on the properties or locations. But you've got... the extra interest rate rise that kicked in this week was quite a large one, and you'll get people that can just hold back and not sell. They won't list their homes for sale. And if anything, that might hold prices in good suburbs, good locations, because there's scarcity then. Good property choices, there's less of them. So people tend to go and gravitate towards better options if they're going to take a risk.
I hear that, it's so hard to buy a house. And to buy a house, it is hard to buy a house because, you buy land, it's expensive. But to put a roof over your head, Mark, it's not that hard, really, is it? I mean, you can buy a one-bedroom apartment for $400,000 in Melbourne, within striking distance of the CBD. Yeah. Correct?
Well, look, you can, whether that's an asset that you want to take risk with, if it suits your lifestyle or not. But yes, you're right, there's choices. And people can make a choice that, no, I don't, that's not where I want to invest or where I want to live, to rent or buy. You can always move further out for more affordability, but it comes down to choice. Some people don't have a choice or luxury of affordability. I remember when we bought our first home back in 07, interest rates were 6-7%, but properties, say a similar unit or house, has doubled in price now. Incomes haven't doubled. So there is people suffering.
Well, I ask all that question because on Twitter, there's a lady called Bonnie J. Gordon. She tweeted yesterday. This is what she tweeted. My landlords, Western Australians, with 7 Melbourne rentals, are selling my home, and I'm worried I will not see my trees grow up. I have tended to so many gardens and houses and mortgages, which weren't mine over the years, and have exactly nothing to show for it. And then a guy called Roscoe replied to that and said, hopefully the trees will live much longer than your landlords. Now, the two tweets together are sort of like, she can buy something if she wanted to. She's chosen not to do that. I can hear a lot of buzzing in my headphones here. Julio, is there a reason for that?
Non-so, Tony, non-so. Just bear with me.
That's all right. Yeah. Mark, what do you make of that?
Look, the affordability for renting is probably going to get tougher. With interest rates rising, there will be slightly less investors, and then migration's going to start flowing back in. There's a lot of applications for new migrants to come back. That means that there'll be a bit more competition, and rentals will generally rise within the cities. So, unfortunately sorry, I forgot the lady's name. Bonnie was it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't comment on the Western Australian market, but Victorian, where we are, I think that the times will get tougher for renters, and you will need to, if you can't afford the city that you're in, that you desire to rent in, you might need to move out further.
Well, she lives in Melbourne because she's saying the people who own the property are Western Australians. They own 7 Melbourne rentals, she says.
In Melbourne.
And she's been renting, and they're selling what she calls is her home. Obviously, she's planted something in the garden, and they're her trees.
Yeah.
But she didn't own the house.
No.
So if you want to take the trees away, put them in a pot.
Yeah, or you make that agreement before, get that undertaking before you put them in. If you're desiring to take them with you, you've got any deal, any negotiation, whether you're buying, selling, renting. If you've got an intention or expectation, make sure it's agreed to before you start.
Yeah, what I take from that tweet is that she's not happy.
Yeah,
and she's basically saying these guys own 7 Melbourne rentals. They're greedy. And they're not being fair to me. And the other guy saying that, he hopes the trees will live much longer than the landlord. like there's this anger toward people who dare to buy properties to rent out.
Yeah, and look, I guess well done. They've established themselves with 7 properties, but I think that anger is going to increase as the rental market, scarcity and competition increases. We're probably at the most affordable point right now that we have been, since pre-pandemic. We're only getting back to those rental yield levels now, and demand's going to increase because you had 2 years of a lot of first home buyers exiting the market from the rental market to take the opportunity to buy. A few of them won't be able to purchase now with rate rises, or just, they might sit back to see what happens.
Well, I think what's going to happen in the next couple of years, you're the real estate agent, I'm not, but I've been following it for a long time. It's going to be the best time possible to buy a house in the next 2 years, because if prices go down, I don't think we're going to see interest rates go up to the level that they were, 20, 30 years ago.
I agree.
So, take the plunge.
Yeah.
Buy something.
It is. There's a fair time to buy, definitely. Fair time to buy right now. If you choose the right asset, do your homework, due diligence, make sure it's the right place for you. But if you're going to stretch now, we've already seen a small correction. It's never going to go back. If you look over a long period, buy and hold 5, 10 years plus, the decreases and flows, they're never as great as the growth. The growth always outweighs the little dips.
They always come back. Yeah. So it's your fault if you don't buy something, if you can buy something, and if you've got a job. Average weekly earnings are like, $60,000, $70,000. Okay. Now, interest rates at, say, what they are now is, 3.5%?
Depending on the bank, but yes, they're
Let's say they even go to
banks,
4% or even 5%.
Yeah.
If you borrow $400,000, that's $15,000 or $20,000 a year in repayments.
If you can get approval, I think you should always look at buying rather than renting. Some people, depending on their income, they might have a good income, but they might have casual basis employment, and the banks don't, look at their serviceability as favourably, or don't take into account all of their income. It might be, you can look at talking to mortgage brokers and banks, but not everyone will get the loan they desire. But if you can get approval and they're ready to give you the money for property that you want to buy, you should always have a crack.
Yeah, and once you've bought the house, hang on to it with your life. Yeah. And if that means, you've lost the job and you have to move out and go back with your parents or something, you can be the landlord. You rent it out, and then other people will help you pay it off.
Contribute to the repayments, yeah.
I think you need to be flexible, Mark. And you need to make a few sacrifices.
Yes.
You don't go on the holiday. And that's the other thing. I don't think people are prepared to make that. Julia, you're nodding there. You agree with me?
I must say, Tony, you make a lot of sense.
Because I'm angry with people who say, it's too hard.
Yeah.
It is hard, but it's always been hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah, there's some risk involved.
There's older Italians listening now who remember when they came out in the 50s, how hard it was then, because we didn't have a deregulated banking system. Back in those days, you had to have a certain amount of money in the bank for a certain period of time to qualify for a loan. So they grouped together. They wouldn't have been able to buy it with one income. The whole family got together.
Make a syndicate, yeah.
And bought the house. Kids gave up their income. You ask a kid nowadays, Julia, would you give your mum your pay for 3 years to help her pay her house?
I would.
But I don't think many other people would.
Well, yeah, that's probably where we differ, but I would, because I don't want to spoil the interview here, but you're exactly right. The sacrifices, like, for instance, I know a lot of friends who have gone on holidays, whereas I did it a bit differently, where I had to make a few sacrifices in order to obviously help pay off my my mortgage. So
I think those arguments need to come out a little bit more, Mark.
Yeah.
Because all we hear is, it's just so hard, so terrible.
It comes back to choices, yeah. Even the word, I know Michelle, when she was training, and a lot of the words like sacrifice, a lot of coaches and trainers, the best advice you got, there's no such thing as sacrifice. It's always a choice. It is hard, like you said, but the hard choice is, okay, I'll go without a holiday or go without other things. And people do want enjoyment now. They've been in lockdown a long time. They want some. You got to have some happiness, otherwise you snap.
Yeah, Mark. But after the Second World War, you could use the same argument. Oh, we've been through 6 years of war. We want to have happiness.
True.
They knuckled down.
Yeah.
And they did what they had to do.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the circumstances were in the last 5, 6, 7 or 8 or 10 years. I just think as a society, as a group of people, we've had it really easy for a very, very long time. And we don't have the stomach for the difficulties that, and the sacrifices that come.
That you have to make.
That's right. Anyway, so what do you see, Mark? Do you see prices coming down by how much in the next 2 years?
I'd say don't look at it at a bigger, like a macro area. Look at the micro areas of the suburbs that are good and well established and good property. I think they'll hold and probably still have some increase. Some have come back already, but that's short term, I feel. Some properties that aren't as attractive or first choice in suburbs, if they're too high density or not in the good land asset ratio or not in the best locations, they'll probably suffer a bit more in the next 1 or 2 years.
Because with inflation, and we're now talking about inflation everywhere, prices can only go up. If it costs more to build a house, which it will, because everything costs more, wages will go up, houses will go up as well.
Yeah.
Anyone who's got assets.
Well, if rent's costing more, then you've got to weigh up what's the repayments like. Can I rent out a bedroom? Talking about choices, you can move in if you can afford a 2-bedroom property, rent out a bedroom, help with the repayments. And then again, yes, building, renovating costs, increasing time. So people are looking for that sort of turnkey option, something already established, ready, that doesn't need much work right now. But I'd still look at properties that you can add value to, need some cosmetic updates, bathroom, kitchen, buy it at a better price, get the land first and the property and location, then improve it over time. They can be a bit of a project as well.
Yeah. Well, that requires work on weekends and sometimes at night.
After hours.
As well as the job that you're doing, which
sweat.
not everybody's prepared to do.
No, you've got to be prepared. Yeah.
Mark Errichiello, co-founder and director of Master Advocates, licensed estate agent. And you can contact him. What's your number, Mark?
My number's 0408 988 118.
And you help people buy houses?
Yeah, buy, and Michelle and I take care of rental management for some of our investors as well, a small group.
You help people sell as well?
We'll be advocates for that. In that sense, we'll get our local agents that we know perform in each suburb, and we'll be the liaison for our clients selling. We'll manage the sales agents together.
The middle guy.
That's right, based on experience.
All right. Mark, thank you for coming in to Rete Italia this morning.
Beautiful studios too, guys.
It is too. Have a look at his hat too, Julie. He's got, that's a mafia hat, that is, Mark.
A capello. Yeah.
Il berretto.
I want one of those.
Yeah. I like that.
There's Hannah hats,
My birthday's coming up, Julie. You reckon you can buy me one like
I'm
that?
still waiting for you to invite me to dinner from the other week.
Well, we were going to go to that restaurant up the road here. Yeah.
So one of my extended cousins, Gigliotti Fashions in Lygon Street, Brunswick East, he sells those. Yeah, you should still have to go see me and Dominic.
They look good. I like them. Yeah.